Sahana vavatu, sahanao bhunaktu, sahaviryan karavavahe, tejasvina badhitamastu, ma vidvishavahe. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. I hope your week was okay. Some weeks are okay, some weeks are so-so. That's part of life. However, Krishna also says what's part of life is yajna. And yajna is bringing gratefulness into your life for every moment that you have, a brand new day, for every new breath, every food that comes to you, every chance to assess things, to look more into things, to get to know yourself better, to develop a deeper connection with the Lord, to develop a connection with yourself, with your parents, with those ancestors who have given to us, with the rishis, with this tradition. So this yajna is a attitude of gratitude. It is also relating to idols, because idols represent symbolically the knowledge which makes your mind focused. And we'll talk about idols soon. And it removes the sense of isolation. And the reason it does this is because, for the most part, as great as our science is today, and I hope we love science. I adore science personally, but science is wonderful. However, at any wonderful endeavor comes a cost, just like with GPS, right? There's a cost of not using your spatial memory, or with AI comes a cost of distracted creativity. So any blessing at the same time in this world comes with a cost. And the cost of science in particular is that it has distanced the individual from something deeper and more reverential than just these mechanical laws that are acting as these impersonal cause and effect, like two gears spinning. This happens and then this occurs, right? So it's a very sort of a, mechanical, dry way of looking at the world. And so it strips out this divinity in all things. So yajna's purpose is to bring divinity back into your life. It gives you another layer, that layer of comfort that you have something to fall back on. And this is very comfortable because, as I said, every week may be different for you, but if there's one thing that is the same, you always have that fallback, which is the Lord. And the way that, this works is through, as we said, chanting or your intention behind your action. So see, often we get asked, what should I be doing? The question is never what should I be doing? The question is, what's the intention behind what I'm doing? The question is, what is my attitude behind what I'm doing? The question is not, I want to attain moksha. Should I be single or should I be married? That's not the question. The question is, what is my attitude towards a partner? If I see the partner as a distraction, then they will most likely be a distraction. If I see the partner as an aid to my journey, they will most likely be an aid to my journey. So you have to set an intention and you look at things in a certain way. And by looking at it in a certain way, that thing, that object, that person becomes either your enemy or your friend. It's not that they are intrinsically an enemy or the friend, but your own projections, your own opinions makes them something that is of a hindrance or an aid into your life. You don't find any cell in a person that says your enemy. You open up an atom, there's no your enemy or your friend in any part of the person. That is your own projection based on what you have told yourself what that significant other means for me. So your children can be your greatest blessing or distractors. Your wife and husband can be your aid, your guide, your balance in life, or they can be a nuisance in life. It is really up to you. And this is what yajna helps us. It makes you realize that you are, number one, gifted with the ability to decide how you want life to show up for you. It is what you decide. Life doesn't show up according to how life shows up. It shows up according to how you want life to show up for you. So the question then comes is, how are you making life show up for you? And how do you want to continue having life show up for you? Let's think about this for a moment. You are in the driver's seat. You're driving this body, this vehicle, sitting in the chariot, holding the reins with the 5 horses, and you're pointing like Krishna, you know, the Buddhi, he says like this to Arjuna. He points, go here, go here. Okay, so this pointer has to be discerning, has to be intelligent to point you to the right directions. And there's an example of what happens if this yajna leads your life. And we've got many examples throughout history, such as, you know, Rajneesh, you know, amongst many teachings that he taught, which are wonderful. He was a professor and he wanted to discover the truth. This is a reasonable cause. But very soon, right, through his engagement at his Oregon commune, he somehow, something slipped. And what happened was promiscuity became the norm. The question is then, how is promiscuity, how is having sex as much as one wants, how is that connected to the truth? So now the discernment got lost because yajna got lost, because reverentiality got lost, because my connection to the Lord got lost. So this is an example how if one becomes, you know, to a certain point in life, you're never quite immune to veering left or right. And yajna keeps you grounded, keeps your mind grounded to what matters most and what you need the most. Therefore, it is there to also reduce what's called unnatural attachment. That's why Krishna said in verse 9, he says, one who is free of attachment. What kind of attachment? You have the extra word, unnatural attachment. What is unnatural attachment? It is when one becomes overly dependent on something for their sense of well-being. And thereby, you either have 2 ways how this happens. Either I fear, right, of their loss. So this means now it may leave me. So now I start to, you know, cling onto them. I start to suffocate it. I start to take too much of my time into the other's, you know, presence. So it becomes very unnatural. The other way is through catastrophizing, which is by, you know, things are going to work out completely terrible. So this is where the mind starts to project its own insecurities and it projects it onto the object. And then the object becomes a source of control, right? I want to control the object so it doesn't leave. But actually, the object has nothing to do with leaving or not. It's me who's projecting it leaving through my own, right, ideas. So this becomes an unnatural attachment. There is also you know, sometimes we project extra value onto an object. So now that object, as normal as it is, it becomes God itself. It becomes something to chase for, to die for, to spend time with, to sacrifice one's balls for, to you know, give one's time and energy for. So now that object, you've pedestalized it. And anyone knows, whenever you pedestalized, do you like it when someone puts you on a pedestal? Do you like that? It actually suffocates you, okay? Equally, not only you don't like when someone pedestalizes you, you also don't like when someone, you know, sees you as a absolute object of dependence for their survival. It puts pressure on you. So this is all unnatural attachment. So Krishna says, one who is free from unnatural attachment, coming back to natural attachment or natural love. What is natural love? It is where you love without clinging, where you care without controlling. Okay? So this means that it's okay to be attached and to love. But the question is, what kind of attachment or love is it? Okay, so you can't get rid of attachment nor love. It is an empirical reality that holds us and binds us together. We just have to refine it. So it's not clingy, it's not catastrophizing, it is not, overly dependent upon. But end of the day, ask yourself, have you ever lost someone and you found yourself, or something, and you found yourself continuing just fine without it? Whereas while that object was with you, you thought, I can't live without it. I can't, my life will never be the same again. But you'll find that when it leaves you, it's painful for sure. But ultimately, you find yourself back. You find yourself flowing. Sometimes you even find yourself almost like a relief, like something is just falling off your shoulders. When someone dies, even, you may be surprised. I thought I'm going to miss them, but now you're actually quite relieved that they're gone. It's so strange. And all your life you thought, oh God, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? But you find, hey, there's just no point because that person doesn't exist anymore. I can't argue with them. I can't say sorry. There's no one's listening anymore because that person with that name is gone. The only thing that's left is their impressions, their causal body, which is now populated by a different personality, different parents. But that person who you knew, that is gone. It doesn't exist. Who are you talking to? Nothing but a memory. It's just a memory imprint in one mind, not a second mind. So that person is gone. And when you realize, when you see it through this perspective, you're relieved. You say, wow. So all those conversations and those laughters and those, times, fun times we had, and those fights and all those philosophies and that drama, all of it, gone, all gone. And you really come to appreciate, wow, this is how life is. It's all loud and noisy, isn't it, while it's happening? But then there's a moment when it just totally goes into a silence. And then you can't even say, I miss you. You can't even hate them. You can't even love them. Because who are you loving? Just an idea in your mind. That's it. And that idea in your mind, too, will start to fade as time goes by. So this is the, why are you able to do this? Because you're falling back on through yajna on something much greater than one person, than one object, than one experience. There is this intelligence that is manifesting as this world that you and I are experiencing now, which manifests as the ether, the eaten, the air you breathe, the sun that warms you, the ability to communicate, the ability to understand each other now, manifests as your body, as your thoughts, as your walls that you're staring at right now. It's the very same intelligence. So what's the real difference between your wall and a flower? What's the difference? It's the same intelligence. One intelligence, one Ishwara, manifesting as a bland wall, but also manifesting as a rainbow. So your fallback is always true wherever you go. There's no place where Ishwara is not. You can find yourself in darkness. That darkness is also Ishwara. Find yourself in beauty. That beauty is also manifestation of this one reality. You find yourself in the most boring place possible. Are you really bored now? If the same Ishwara is all around you. The Ishwara that was in that rainbow, that was keeping you so entertained, is the same Ishwara entering your nose as air. Therefore, you start to have a much greater, deeper connection with the environment around you. That's the purpose of yajna. And then Krishna says, this very intelligence, which you express reverentiality and gratitude to, expresses as deities or devas, sometimes devata, deva. And what is a deva? What is a deity? Well, in the older language, we call them gods with a plural. That's why a lot of traditions talk about gods. The Egyptians talk about gods. The Mayans talk about gods. The Vedic culture, they don't use the word gods, they use deities, but it's the same principle. What are these gods? Well, there are not many gods. In fact, the most common argument against Hinduism by professors, you guys have so many gods, they have so many gods, we only have one God. This is like basic kindergarten level understanding. There is no many gods, there is only God. Well, then why do you have all these gods with a plural? Well, it's very simple. Because you see, in order to relate to the one God, we have something called the deities. And it's very clever the way it's designed. For example, right now there are lovely little creatures in your intestines. You know, they have a family, they have a vacation, and they're very much there, having comfort and warmth. And they find themselves, you know, they call each other good bacteria. And they they digest your food, they break down your food, and they also kill and ward off any germs that are attached to the foods that you eat. You know how many germs, poisonous, life-threatening germs there are on ordinary foods that you eat every day? So many. In fact, I was told that if you give chocolate to a dog, if you give, I think, over 6 grams or something, or 30 grams of chocolate, the dog will die because the chocolate has a certain chemical that only a human digestive system can break down. A dog cannot break it down. However, a dog or some other animal can eat grass and soil. Now, if you eat grass and soil, how is that going to work out for you? Not good at all, because your digestive system cannot digest that. So now, but it can digest other things. So those good bacteria, what do we call them? We don't just call them these biological molecules that are put together. We call them deities. We call them gods. There's little gods there which are doing their intelligence. We call them a good bacteria deities. And then we call the electricity, the electric current causing your heart to beat deity. We call it Surya Deva, which represents clarity, the deity which is there to make you see and to think. Or Agni Devata, which is Agni represents speech. Why does speech and Agni go together? Fire. Why does fire and speech go together?
Because fire can warm you, but it can also destroy you.
Yeah.
So words can hurt you, but they can also be calming and soothing.
Exactly. So they can throw light onto matters, but they can also destroy, they can burn things down. And therefore, you relate to Agni Deva as the speech, the intelligence, which is, if it's not used properly, it can burn things down. If I use it properly, I can throw light onto matters and reveal realities. We have air devata, Vayu Deva, Agni Deva, Surya Deva, okay? So anything in this world can be looked as an intelligent expression of this one intelligence. That's the purpose of devas. It's a way to devote. In fact, the fastest way to find your heart filled with devotion is to, instead of seeing as just cells, see a cell deva. That is an intelligence of itself. Have you ever seen a cell split? Keep on splitting, or the world of the microscopic. It's the most amazing world of the at the microscopic level, how things replicate, or you see a seed underneath a microscope. And it's just, you think it's round, but it's got these intelligent structures upon it and little barbs, and you say, my God, how does this, it's just the whole plant is just waiting in there to fructify itself when the right season comes. So it's just waiting. It's not, you can still see the greenery inside the little seed, and it's just waiting. And one moment, one day, not yesterday, today, it just starts to grow out. And you see, how do you know? How do you know what day to grow? How do you know, like, what tells you this? You got to appreciate the intelligence in it. So that's a deva, seed deva. We also have much larger devas, which represent the bigger picture, such as Saraswati Deva. We can start to appreciate the symbolism. The first thing, we find our favorite deva. That means, for me, Saraswati represents, arts or creativity or knowledge. So whatever it is that you relate with, you can find a deva that is for you. Now, if you look at Saraswati, you first, you drink that beauty of that picture and you say, why is she holding beads? What do the beads represent? So you start to ask for the symbolism. Why is she holding the Veda? What's the peacock? What does that mean? What does the Veena or the sitar mean? Well, the beads represent Saraswati, can be seen in two ways as a wise person. The beads represent, she has knowledge of Satya Mithya, that means contemplation. The beads represent contemplation. What is she in constant contemplation with? Satya Mithya relationship in reference to this reality. That means she knows the truth of what is real, and she knows what is apparently real, what is Satyam and what is Mithya. And she's constantly contemplating on these beads. She never leaves these beads. And what allows her, what supplies her the knowledge of Satya Mithya? The Veda, the scriptures, which we will talk about in verse 15. The scriptures, which are apaurushaya, they are not of human creation. They reveal something that the human logic cannot arrive to. You have to be told about Ishwara and consciousness. And she never leaves the Veda, no matter where she goes. She is in a meeting, in the car. Imagine Saraswati driving a car, right? What an interesting image. She is, sitting down, drinking coffee with you, sometimes, chilling out a little bit, but she never leaves the primary source that guides her life, the Veda. And then she's playing the Veena. What do the strings represent? Wow. If Saraswati represents knowledge, okay, then Ishwara. Then what does the strings represent? What do the strings do when you play them? They produce sounds, right? Now, are the sounds always the same or are they different? Considering who's playing the strings? Knowledge and power. All knowledge and all power. If you're a Ravi Shankar, then you will only play a certain range of musics, because Ravi Shankar only knows a certain range of musics. But if you are all knowledge, all power singer, then what kind of music can you play? Every tune in the world. So this means that strings represent names and forms. Every string is a sound. Every sound is unique to another sound. How many sounds or representative for names and forms? Infinite amount of them. And when the sound stops, into what does it resolve into? Into silence. And what does that silence represent? In Sanskrit, we call that the adhisthana, the kutastha, or the substratum, which is awareness. So every name and form resolves into awareness. And what does the peacock represent? The peacock represents, what is a peacock? Look at it. It's colorful, it's pretty, it's alluring, it's really beautiful. In fact, the peacock is the most beautiful thing here amongst the flowers. That represents your colorful and vibrant nature of the mind, which is very attracted to the flowers, which is Maya. The flowers are always, lots of fragrance and colors, and the peacock's very fascinated. But also the peacock itself is very alluring and colorful. Now, this mind, what is she like? She's very calm and peaceful. So does this mean that the wise person doesn't have a mind? No. The wise person has a mind, but she's calm amidst her mind. The mind is there. She has control of the mind. She still has a mind. She still has an ego. She hasn't got destroyed the ego. It's all there. And she's still able to recognize the non-dual nature of reality through her contemplation of the deeds, satya, mithya. So now you look at this and you say, it's not just an image, you know, you have reverence for whoever came up with this, whoever came up with this symbolism. And this becomes a way for you to relate to the Lord through the picture. It's not just a picture anymore. It's a contemplation tool. So now, what would you rather have? I mean, for me, this is beautiful. I mean, for you, you may have Shiva or Krishna or whoever it is. Right now, you know, it depends. But what would you rather have come into your mind? A random image of your ex-partner who you have no connection with anymore, keep on popping up, popping in and popping out, or something like this that you have thought well through, that you are very attracted to, and it fascinates you. What would you rather have? That's why we have idols in life. They're not just there to see, they're there to hold in your mind and guide your mind towards contemplating on Ishwara. Okay. So this is Saraswati. I wonder what your idol is.
I just wanted to add one or two more things towards symbolism.
Yeah.
So the consorts of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva.
Yeah.
So, like for example, the Shiva, starting from Shiva, the god of destruction, he takes back everything that has been created. So her consort Durga, she also wields a power for destruction. Consort of Vishnu, he's for preserving. Therefore, Lakshmi, therefore Maya, which is required to run the whole thing, and therefore the image of Lakshmi, at his feet, and he being Mayapati, the Lakshmi at his feet, he is above Maya, he's Mayapati.
Yes.
And Saraswati. So Brahma has, he's also having Vedas in his hands. He's the one who creates. So for creation, Saraswati is the one who gives a power of knowledge, power of all the good things about human beings. That is the art and everything.
Yes.
So this type of symbolism is there. And the word Saraswati, one is Saraswati river. So there is one connection with pure like water, and Ras in Saraswati is essence, the essence of knowledge. So that is one symbolism that I know.
It's beautiful. And so it's really nice to have all of these options for you. Which ones do you want to relate with? And that is what the Vedas wants to give you. So it doesn't just restrict your, doesn't limit you to one expression. It gives you an option. If you want Saraswati or Lakshmi or Durga or Ganapati or Brahma or Vishnu, right? Whoever it is that means something to you, that is your idol. But they all refer to the same intelligence.
Yeah, I think I've mentioned this a while ago, but at one point I was having a very difficult time in my life, and I felt like I needed something to remind me of the whole, and put everything into perspective. And so I didn't know where to find images, so I painted a Ganesh, which is here, hangs here, so I look at it every day.
Oh, wow.
And I paid very careful attention to every detail.
Brilliant.
And I still look at it,
And it's yours too.
Yeah. And
it's even more personal then.
Yeah, it became, because in the process of making it, I was just studying everything about it. Yeah.
So that's a form of devotion.
Anyway, so that kind of works, yeah.
I was just going to share. I recently learned this. Every time I listen to a bhajan or some music, I remember Shyamala Devi. She's all green and she has a veena in her hand. So I always contemplate on her as I'm thinking about, as I'm listening to music.
Yeah.
Just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you. This is it. So what is very beautiful to you? It stands out, it captures you, it's captivating, it's electrifying, it hooks you, it envelops you, it gives you a sense of warmth and comfort and safety and security. And you feel so, protected in its presence. What is that for you? Prerna?
Yeah, for me, the image of Lord Hanuman and I mean, what I really connect with is how kind he is, how committed he is, and how helpful he is to others whenever Lord Ram needed him. And also how powerful and strong he, like in the physical appearance, what we see in the image,
Yes.
the idol or the photographs are.
Yes.
And yeah, and everything about him is just, when I look at the picture, it shouts kindness, kindness, and love. That's what it represents to me. And also there's a fierceness behind it when he fights. So it's like altogether everything something can represent for me. Also, Lord, like the images of Devi in different forms, they are also, I really like the color red in those ones. And it's again sparks the fierceness, which is also in Lord Hanuman. Like it's the similarity of the color I'm speaking about, and how the femininity can be channelized. I mean, I'm not 100% sure with all those images, but I really connect with both of them on colors and fierceness and kindness, and also the femininity. I mean, even Lord Hanuman, I can't just say he's just masculine. He's a perfect balance of being kind, feminine, masculine, everything.
I just wanted to share that I have a puzzle. I'm very much into puzzles.
Okay.
And a puzzle that I made with this idol of Shiva, the jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah, I've been attracted to Shiva, Lord Shiva, for a long, long time. And it's mainly because of the meditative pose, which gives that feeling that, it's full of peace. And you feel like, no matter what situation, you can be calm. So that's something I learned. And also his strength, that the strength you see, the way he walks in some of the videos which you see, it's like it tells you like you can do anything, it's, you are strong and you can do anything in life. Nothing can,
Yeah, very nice. Yeah.
Strength that you get. Yeah. And also I think my connection with Shiva is because when I used to be a girl guide, we used to have a project where we had to go to a Shiva temple and clean. So I used to spend like Sundays cleaning the temple.
Okay.
So I come from a family where we have our own Devi temple. So, and like at 6 p.m. in the evening, everyone goes and lights the lamp in this village where we come from. And we all chant Lalita Sahasranamam. So it's been chanted at our home regularly on a daily basis. So I just naturally took up to that. And then today I understand like the meaning of every little slok that I'm chanting. So it's got like 1,008 names or something of the Devi. And then you just learn to imbibe each characteristic of that. So just assimilate it and emulate it into your daily life. And that's what I realized later. Like initially I just chanted, and then I can see now that every quality, what it means and how it just grows in you. So I've enjoyed the journey.
Some of us in the Western world, if you don't relate to these devas, it's okay. You can relate to the nature, to, to the mountains, or whatever it is for you. That's my question. What is it for you? I want us to really think, what is something that is really personal and dear and near for you, that in every way it just activates your cells, the Lord in you?
I think it's just the creation process. So it's just anything artistic, I feel that way.
Yeah.
Just that process of creating.
Yeah.
And if it's Deva, or I've done lots of them out of clay, Greek mythology, plus also Indian Devas and stuff. It's just the same feeling every single time I create something. It's just that challenge, and then just feeling that reverence when you're making it. So it's not actually the end product. It's actually just that feeling of reverence when you're making it.
For me, I'd have to say that it's the intimacy that I feel with the unfoldment of my life, and with regards to being led to this knowledge, led to the wisdom, and led to a qualified teacher. It's very meaningful because I feel like all my life I've been searching for what is only in the last year or so really just been like a flood of tremendous wisdom that is just shaping my life in such meaningful ways. And so it's very personal, and it's something that it's just I feel like it's more and more, it's becoming more and more instant, where if the mind is wandering, that there's this just this knowledge that is that Ishwara is right there, and that this love and this guidance, this intelligence it's palpable. It's right there because I see so much change in my life, and I see how this wisdom is shaping my entire outlook on life and my understanding of who I am. So it's just beautiful. It's beautiful. And of course, my favorite image is well, I shouldn't say of course because you guys don't know, but it is Shiva, and that's the one that is on my desk.
These devas, as we said, they are those forces that help us in life. And Krishna is going to make an interesting statement. He says that if we go about our life and we don't acknowledge them, then we are called a thief. Verse 12, Ishtan bhogan hivo devaha dasyante yajna bhavitaha tairdatan apradayayipyaha yo bhunkte stena evasaha.
The deities propitiated by yajna will give you desirable objects. One who enjoys objects given by them without offering to them in return is indeed a thief.
So as we said, these cosmic forces that help you, that's what a deity means. Cosmic forces that help you live a prosperous, meaningful life, something that you depend upon every day, like nature, society, food, physiological orders, gravity, light, psychology. These are all orders that are functional. Prana, your heart is beating automatically, so it's a prana deva. Okay, so it says here, because they are always supplying their gifts to you, if you in turn choose to benefit from it without reciprocating at least your acknowledgement and gratitude to these forces, then Krishna says you are a thief, and a thief is one who benefits without acknowledging without reciprocating. They benefit without reciprocating. Actually, not for the God's sake. The gods don't need you. Air doesn't need you, and sunlight doesn't need you. So now why are we being told to propitiate these gods? When it says propitiate, it means to express your gratitude. Why are you doing this? For whose sake are you doing this for? It has to be for your sake. But how is this then helping you if you acknowledge the presence of the gods? Well, it helps you because it reduces this individuality, this individual who says, I don't need anything, I'm here by myself on my own, and I don't need Ishwara. Now it's really interesting. Why would Ishwara, the one who holds the key to moksha, like a key, key holder, why would Ishwara give moksha or help someone, have their ignorance chopped off at every corner, at every angle, if one does not acknowledge Ishwara in return? See, so this is a very interesting verse that shows you the importance why you cannot skip Ishwara. There's no shortcuts. So we don't have this in Vedanta, traditional Vedanta, like Neo-Vedanta, where you just skip Ishwara, you said, I don't need God in my life. Well, God is the very entity, the very intelligence that removes your ignorance. And the way to have this intelligence work its way to help you, it says here, don't be a thief. Acknowledge these sources as doing their work through your prayers, through your gratitude, by expressing, saying, thank you, air and sun and rain. Rain is no longer just a thing that falls from the sky. What is rain? You know, rain is something that, you know, we take it for granted because we got dams nowadays. But 5,000 years ago, rain was something so important. Now, nowadays, you have to use a different kind of language. It doesn't matter if it's you know, rain. It's you know, anything that helps you, clarity, wisdom, devotion, an open heart, an open mind, ability to hold the knowledge, the ability to hold things together and connect them to different situations. So they don't just stick at home. They're also very valid when you go to the shopping. Your knowledge is shining in the shopping mall. Your knowledge is shining when you go to the meeting. Your knowledge is shining when you're in a confrontation. Your knowledge is shining when you're in the most unfamiliar place at the airport. That is something that you need or you want for your own good. So Krishna says here, taking the attitude of gratitude and expressing your thankfulness, you carry an anchor with you no matter where you go. You're thankful at your house for the air that I'm breathing, which is Ishwara in the form of air. But you also go to the airport. I'm also thankful for Ishwara at the airport. So what does this do? It immediately brings that knowledge, that comfort that you've established at home. It brings it to the unfamiliar place. So by having this attitude of expressing your appreciation, you carry this wisdom with you. What is your installment for being given a human body? Because nothing comes for free. Your installment is to acknowledge the giver, acknowledge the creator. That is your installments. And how often are these installments? Every day. And now he gives two attitudes in the next verse. And one of them makes you a thief. And the other one, more specifically, now let's get more specific, is the way of a wise person. Okay, so verse 12 was introduction. Now verse 13 is detail. Yajna shishta shina santaha muchyante sarva kilbishaihi bunjate te twagham papaha ye pachantyatma karanat.
Those who eat, having first offered the food to the Lord, are released from impurities, whereas those sinful people who cook only for themselves eat papa, or sin.
There are two ways to undergo an action. The first way is the way of the yajna. So the way of the yajna is where you first express your gratitude and acknowledgement for the Lord's presence, and then you consume, then you take whatever it is that is there for you. And if you just think of a dream to make us relate with this, in a dream, the whole thing is populated by you. So now if you take that dream example, this entire world is nothing but Ishwara's manifestation. So this means that by understanding that all that is here is one intelligence manifesting as all of us, all of our teachers and teachings and so on, we are essentially one and the same. No longer as me different from you, but I am one manifestation of the Lord. You are another manifestation of the Lord. It is like many waves which are within the ocean. What is this? How does this transform your perception between the eater and the eaten? Is it still an eater and eaten? When I start to see that the very eater of the food is Ishwara, and the very food itself is also Ishwara. So who are you really eating? You're eating yourself. It's one reality manifesting as the eater and the eaten. When you cook, for example, how many people are involved in that food? The farmers, the sun, the seasons, the container ships that move the food over into a different continent, the packers, the quality inspection workers, the people who made the recipe and packed it in the containers, the canned food creators who learn how to create a vacuum inside those cans a long time ago. How many things are involved for that food to be in your plate? How many things truly took place? How many insects got killed? How many creatures got sacrificed? They sacrificed their life, these dear worms. They had to die for that food to be on your plate. How much rain did have to fall? And how many farmers died, from their low wages to deliver that food on your plate? How many things are involved for you to survive every day? So he says that when I acknowledge all of these things before eating the food, I acknowledge the linguists who created the language because of which I can even pray. Did you meet those people who created Hindi, Tamil, English language, German, Portuguese? Did you meet them? We don't know who they are. But how much work did William Shakespeare go through to advance our English language? You acknowledge the cook, the digestifier, the tongue, the throat that's capable of swallowing the food. What's the benefit of expressing your gratitude? Every time you eat, what happens? Many insects die. Walking to the shopping mall, you emitted carbon dioxide, even carbon monoxide into, from the car exhaust system. You incurred so much papam just to get your food. And he calls this kilbishaha, kind of like the word kill inside. You killed many things to survive today. Now, killing, kilbishaha, that incurs papam. And now he says, well, how do you offset this papam? Simple. Express your gratitude to the food. Thank you, insects, worms, farmers, cooks, digestifier. Thank you, all of the things that are involved for me to eat this food. This is called prayashchitta karma. It offsets all of the papams you incurred. The only other way that you can go about is the second way, the way of the selfish action. Krishna calls this eating papam. This method I call where you go on an airplane and then food gets served. No matter where you go, whether it's India, America, Australia, people just dig right in. Not even a second of prayer. I call this the airplane mode. The second way is the airplane mode. The moment the food's placed in front of you, just go like a machine. No reverentiality. Might as well be a dog. That's what dogs do. You put a food and they go right into it. So what's the difference? Now, this way, if you want to do that, it's very interesting. He says, from here on, you are a thief. So you might as well just write a big marker called thief and then start to eat the food. Without acknowledging the food, the maker of the food, the eater of the food, the deities because of which the food is here, you are a thief from every bite thereon that you take. You want to be a thief? No problem. Just go method number 2. Don't pray. Just go right into it like a dog. That will make you a thief. If you want the intelligent way, they go for method number 1, the way of yajna. First, express your gratitude, and then go and enjoy your food. Not only does that negate your papam, it also gives you punyam. The second way is quite ironic. You're eating food, something so innocent. You don't intend to hurt anyone. You're just eating food. But Krishna says, without expressing your gratitude, you're incurring papam. Because of all of the things that sacrifice themselves for you without even taking a moment to pause and say thank you. That makes one a thief. And then Krishna continues further and he says, not only do you incur papam, but you also affect the entire cosmic chakra through your participation in this world. So not only do you affect your own life, but you also now go further out and you affect the entire universe, depending on which 2 methods do you go for, the way of yajna or the way of papam. And this will be verse 14. Annad bhavanti bhutani parjanyad anasambhavaha yajnad bhavati parjanyaha yajnah karma samudbhavaha.
Living beings are born of food. Food is born of rain. Rain is born of yajna. And yajna is born of action.
Okay, thank you, Bhuvana. Continues this conversation by saying that your actions are not isolated because you are connected to everything else in this universe. they inevitably have karmic consequences to everyone else. And it wants to show you thereby how specifically you impact everything else around you. And it starts by saying life comes from food. So see, your parents eat food. So the food is the material cause from which your parents produce a seed and thereby give birth to you. So all life comes from food. So food, so why is there life on earth? Because of food. But now the question is, where does food come from? So we want to live, right? You want life. That's how you express that's how you fall in love. That's how you attain your accomplishments. That's how you have moksha. All of that is because of life, right? Because you're living. Great. Why are you living? Because of food. But then where does food come from? Food comes from rain. So without rain, can you have food? No, we would have a barren desert. And then he continues, okay, so we definitely need food and we definitely need rain. But then where does rain come from? Now he continues and he says, rain comes from yajna. This is interesting because yajna, we said, is any physical act, if you remember the definition, any physical act that acknowledges the presence of Ishwara is yajna. Does rain really need you to pray for the rain to fall? No, really. I mean, rain's going to fall irrespective of whether you pray, whether you propitiate the deities or not. So why does he say then rain comes from yajna? What does the word yajna refer to here? It doesn't refer to rituals. It refers to unseen consequences of acknowledging the deities, of doing what is to be done. Unseen consequences of your dharmic actions. How do you show this? Well, 5,000 years ago, there we have dams. Like today, when this was written, do we have dams? See, we take for granted. We don't need rain now. Why? Because farmers, they couldn't borrow water from the dams. They needed rain. So rain was essential at that time. So what does rain represent then? That which is essential. So now you have to change slightly the word rain here. What does rain represent? That which I really, really, really need in my life. Clarity, prosperity, success, connections, wealth, understanding, love, nurturing, care. Do you need that? So now look at this. All of that, which can be replaced with rain, comes from yajna. So what is it saying? Doing what is to be done, propitiating the deities, expressing your gratitude, acknowledging the presence of Ishwara, all of that gives you rain, that which you really, really, really need in your life. Therefore, you get rain in the right qualities, in the right quantity, at the right time. And this yajna comes from action. So who is it that does this yajna? The doer of the yajna, the action. So this means what kind of action? As I said, action that is in accordance with dharma, actions that are aligned with what is to be done, doing your things with dedication, with commitment, with full heart investment. So life comes from food, food comes from rain, rain comes from yajna, yajna comes from your action. So you are affecting your life, you're affecting everyone else's life, you're affecting the rains, you're affecting the whole cosmos because it's all connected. Nothing is outside the order. Suppose you're in a choir, or where there's a lot of singers, and we're all in a choir right now, and you decide not to sing. Is that going to get noticed? I mean, there's, a couple of dozens of us, and you decide not to sing. You say, yeah, I'm just going to, you know how in school we used to open our mouths and pretend, well. And then the teacher, she used to walk with her ear next to each one of us to ensure that we're really singing. Yeah, and then she caught you and you were out. But suppose she didn't do that. Would anyone really catch you that you're not participating? Not really. Now, suppose everyone did this. Hey, I don't have to sing. Everyone else is singing, but everyone else is thinking exactly like you. And so suddenly the choir starts to reduce, and the quality for everyone starts to come down. Thereby, Krishna says, yes, you can get away with it. And people are probably not going to pick you up. But who actually suffers at the end of the day? You do, because you know that you're not singing. You're not doing what is to be done. You're not doing your action, your yajna. And what's that going to do? It's going to incur papam. Why? Because it's going to tell you, I don't have to. I don't have to do the work. So now when it comes to moksha, which requires a lot of work, what's the person going to say? I don't have to pray. I don't have to connect to the Ishwara. I don't have to express devotion. I don't have to understand this. I can just take shortcuts. So Krishna is training us. Do what is to be done in the world. And when you come to the Vedas, you will do what is to be done in the Vedas also. It's a carryover. No cheating in the system. And then in verse 15, he wants to show how all actions that are beneficial for you, because of your own participation, are ultimately coming from Ishwara. So now he wants to make you understand that don't look at these yajnas as just these mechanical things you're being told by, teachers and so on. They are instructions, suggestions of the Lord. Sometimes we say, hey, but Arjuna had it very easy. He was listening to Lord Krishna right there in front of him. We're different. We don't have Lord Krishna speaking to us. Yes, we do. It's called the Bhagavad Gita. And verse 15 wants to show you that. So verse 15, Karma Brahmodbhavam Vidhi Brahmakshara Samudbhavam Tasmat Sarvagatam Brahma Nityam Yajne Pratishtitam.
May you understand karma, ritual, prayer, etc., to be born of the Veda, and the Veda to be born of the imperishable, Ishwara. Therefore, the all-pervasive Brahma, the Veda, abides always in yajna.
As we said at the beginning, science is wonderful. The only thing about science is that we have distanced ourselves from reverentiality. Things have become kind of factual and this is how things are, and that's where the conversation ends. So we have to bring that down to earth through the light of the Gita. Otherwise, life becomes generally meaningless. And then a person says, well, what's the point? What's the point? It's just gravity pulling us down. We die. There's nothing afterwards. What's the point? What's the point of life? And this is the consequence of losing touch with the Lord. So we have to start seeing or shifting our perspective that these yajnas or these actions or what is to be done, they're not just these mechanical, dry instructions. They are gifts, blessings of the Lord, instructing you, giving you a suggestion how to live in a way that helps you align yourself with this order. And he starts by using the word Brahma. The word Brahma here does not refer to creator, it refers to Veda. So the knowledge from which these yajnas come from is called Veda. Okay, so yajna, we said, are certain rituals, certain expressions to relate to the Lord. Where does yajna come from? It comes from the Veda. Where does Veda come from? It comes from Ishwara. So now we are talking about Veda. So now, what is the Veda? It's not a cultural book. It is not written by any one person. The Veda does not belong to India, by the way. There are so many nationalists who keep on saying this is our Sanatana Dharma. This person has not understood what the Veda means. Veda, you cannot put a beginning onto it because it is apaurushaya jnanam. It is not of one prophet like Jesus Christ or Muhammad. It is knowledge that is revealed, that always has been there. It just comes to be known through investigation into reality. Gravity was always there. The speed of sound was always there. Physiological order was always there. Psychology was always there. The ability to put a person to sleep without using alcohol through anesthesia was always there. We just discover what's already there. Okay? So the Veda is to be understood as a text which reveals something that is beyond what you can see and what you can infer. Beyond perception, and it is beyond inference. That means you cannot have a scientist come to the knowledge of afterbirth, or come to the knowledge of consciousness, or to Ishwara. You need the Veda to show you, and then you use your logic to arrive to what the Veda is showing you. So in other words, the knowledge is top down instead of bottom up. You see the difference? That's why we have, Shiva, the knowledge flows downwards. In other words, I have to be given a vision, I have to be shown, here's karma, here's dharma, here's consciousness, here's Ishwara. And then I saw, okay, now how do I arrive to that? How do I use my logic? Using the means, Shabda Pramana, which is the Veda, how do I use my logic to arrive to that? And then you use every step of the way, and every step of the way you see it doesn't contradict your logic. Until you eventually see what the Veda is talking about is exactly how reality really is. So what proves the Veda? Okay, Greg is pointing to yourself. In other words, you prove the Veda. This is why we need faith initially. Because if I get told the Veda can show you consciousness in Ishwara, and I say, where is consciousness in Ishwara? I don't see it anywhere. And you say, well, you have to go through the Veda. You have to use the Veda to see through its logic that there are two more realities that you've been missing out, that science cannot point out. I don't believe you. Well, that's your loss. Because the Veda is waiting for you one life or the next. Until you use it, you will come to see for yourself. It is also called, not only is it not of a person, it's apaurushaya jnanam, it is also anadi. It is knowledge without a beginning. So you can't say the Veda began at some point in time. Where was the Veda written? It doesn't matter when it was written. The point is, it is revealed knowledge that was transcribed at the time when you were able to write it down. So this means what the Veda shows is the same knowledge that is true in all cycles of creation. Because tell me this, which cycle of creation doesn't have dharma? No cycle of creation. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. The entire universe would destroy itself. Which cycle of creation doesn't have cause-effect? They all do. Which cycle of creation doesn't enjoy consciousness? Which cycle of creation doesn't have atoms intelligently putting themselves together to form molecules, molecules putting themselves together to form bigger assemblies like lignin and cellulose, lignin and cellulose coming together to form a tree, a seed growing intelligently up to a certain height, producing a certain fruit, growing at a certain season with a certain width. When is that not true? Therefore, Veda cannot be given a time. It is beginningless knowledge. And there are two kinds of knowledges that the Veda shows. The first is called Apara Vidya or Paroksha Jnanam. Apara Vidya means knowledge which is subject to negation. So, for example, suppose you write a PhD thesis on a particular topic. What's going to happen 5 years later when more information gets revealed? That PhD thesis, which made you so popular, is now invalidated. Apara Vidya or Paroksha Jnanam can be, its nature is additive. So in other words, you always have to know more, right? Chapter 1, now let's add chapter 2, let's add chapter 3, let's add chapter 4. So its nature is additive. It can also be contradicted from a different standpoint, because I can say to you the number 6, but you look at it from a different angle and you see number 9. It can never give you fulfillment, because the more you know, the more you realize that you don't know. So if you finish your university degree that's 5 years, you realize I haven't gone 10 years. That means I'm still missing 5 more years of knowledge. And by the time you get those 5 years, you've got additional information that's discovered. And now you discovered half of those 5 years was incorrect, or there's more to know. It's different. So you can never catch up to Apara Vidya. However, you need Apara Vidya to teach you language, how to use critical thinking, the ethics, how to use discernment, learn about dispassion. So is it useless? Not at all. Even though it can't give you fulfillment, it is not useless because it qualifies you for Paravidya or Aparoksha Jnanam. What is Paravidya? This is the second section of the Veda. This is higher knowledge, which talks about 2 additional realities, consciousness and Ishwara, or Brahman and Paramatma. And this reality you can only discover by going through the methodology, which reveals to you step by step that it doesn't contradict experience. Nobody here can say that you are not aware. Now, the Veda says that awareness is not relevant to just you. That is actually universal awareness. So your awareness is exactly the same as the awareness of everyone else. And that awareness is the truth of everything. We call that Brahman. So 2 kinds of knowledges come from the Veda. And this is the kind of knowledge that leaves you permanently satisfied. Why?
Something to do with one being timeless and the other has finite
Yes.
sense of timeline to it.
Paravidya, that means you are not just studying the Paravidya. I am saying that you have had the aparoksh anubhuti. You have reached what Paravidya wants to teach you. Therefore, there's nothing left to achieve. You realize that you are Brahm yourself and there is nobody else out here. So there is nothing remaining. So that is.
Yeah, I think one is the study of the subject. The other one is a study of the object.
In fact, I'll go one step further. Paravidya is a study of both the subject and the object. So as Gautam said, it shows you the substance of both the subject and the object. Whereas Aparavidya only shows you knowledge of the object. It never touches the subject. So there's this incredible mind that is scientific, but it never asks, who am I, the one who is observing this, who's always present and true to all these formulas. So Paravidya is the substance of all creation. And when you know the substance, is there anything else to know? No. Because whatever you know is just a modification of that substance. It's like the sandcastle. No matter how complex that sandcastle is, it's still made out of sand. Now, that sandcastle may have a thing called a door and a window and a chimney. So I don't have to study door and window and how chimneys work and how they, their water, how it works. I just have to understand the whole thing is pervaded by one substance, the sand. So if I know the sand, automatically I know the entire chimney, the entire roof. I know everything about that structure. For that reason, Paravidya is the only knowledge that can satisfy your yearning for more knowledge. Until you gain Paravidya, you will never be happy with the amount of knowledge that you have about anything. You can download the entire internet into you, the entire internet right now, Matrix style. Still, there will be a thorn in there. Something's missing. I'm still incomplete, dissatisfied. Something is not clicking. Paravidya, you discover there is nothing more to know. Because at once you come to know that substance, which is through and through all things, every word, every sight, every sound, every smell, every distinction is pervaded by the same awareness.
So what I wanted to say was I came across in the YouTube some explanation about one person asked, how do I believe in the Vedas? So that one gentleman gave an explanation of the GPS.
Yeah.
So suppose you have a map and a GPS. How would you know if the GPS is, you have to go where it's telling you to go? Only then you can either say it's right or in the wrong direction. So I thought that was a very nice analogy.
Okay, that's a good point. So that means you need initial faith in the GPS.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was a nice explanation. So
it is.
Just wanted to share that.
It is. And if you don't want to follow the GPS, go ahead, go and find go and spend a lifetime, right, looking. So that's a good way. So Veda is a GPS. And then the verse continues before we close, and it says, therefore, all pervasive Brahma, in other words, Veda, all pervasive Veda abides in yajna. This is the last sentence. So what does this mean? All pervasive Veda, because Veda is coming from all pervasive Ishwara. So that knowledge abides in yajna. So this means when you do your yajna, where is that yajna arising from? From the Veda. Where is the Veda from? Ishwara. Therefore, when I perform my yajna, my gratitude, my acknowledgement of the cosmic forces, that is a direct instruction, direct suggestion of Ishwara. Communicating through the Veda, and yajna becomes your living embodiment of Ishwara's instruction. Therefore, the more you recognize this intelligence, the more satisfied you become, because less dependent you are on things working out your way and things having to look in a certain way. Okay, you're just simply satisfied with wherever you go, because when are you outside Ishwara's order? Never. Therefore, free entertainment. How much is entertainment now? Now, suppose everyone understands this. What's going to happen to our stock markets? Everything crashes. That's why we can't really fix the world. You try to fix the world, ironically, you break the world. So therefore, you start to have free entertainment now, because you're always relating to the one without the second. And this is the verse 15, which shows you that ultimately your entire life is a perfect reflection of how much you exercise your yajna, how much you bring gratitude and devotion in your life. That is the kind of life you enjoy. So we can close and by asking a question: what kind of a life do you want to enjoy? A grateful one, one with an open heart, sensitive, creative, one that's worthy of waking up to. It motivates you, it's juicy, it's sweet, you feel connected and held and protected. You feel cheerful, uplifted and positive about being, about just being. Well, yajna is your friend. It is there for you. So start expressing your gratitude every day, if you will, relating to your deities, looking at their symbols, and this slowly, your life will start to change. The quality will start to represent more than just waking up and surviving. Let's wake up and be happy about living. Purnamadav, Purnamidam, Purnat, Purnamudachyate, Purnasya, Purnamadaya, Purnam eva avashishyate. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.